Another Playful Humans podcast. I'm your host, Mike Montague, and my guest this week is a Lego serious play facilitator and researcher. It's Wendy Dyke McGee. She's right there. And we're going to be talking with her about what it's like to play for a living and how you can discover your creative confidence with Lego and more. And if you're looking for more inspiration to rediscover the power of play in your life, go to playfulhumans.com. There's a playfulness quiz there, a cool community, and all kinds of fun stuff for other adults trying to rediscover the power of play. Here we go. Just a woohoo. All right, Wendy, welcome to the podcast. We like to start with the joke of the week. The joke of the week this week is brought to you by fireworks. Fireworks are a blast. Someone stole my limbo stick, Wendy. I mean, seriously, how low can you go?
Okay, that's
all right,
good.
That's all we got. Two quick ones this week. Now, I think this is interesting because I like to talk to playful people, and I think some people that hesitate to be playful as adults feel like they have to be serious, or they're not the bow tie wearing like clown, balloon animal making type of person. And I don't feel like that's your personality. So how did you get to researching play and creative confidence with Lego, but not necessarily being the class clown?
Sure. No, great question. And first of all, Mike, thanks for having me out today. This is fun to play with you for the next few minutes. So just this will probably take us on a rabbit trail, but how it all started was at 17, my very first job was working at Disneyland. And so now at 50, I always say I've had the serious jobs within fun environments. So I worked for Disney for 6 years and then went on to work for the Lego company and helped to open up Legoland, California. So I was part of the original construction crew, is what we called ourselves. Wow. Back in 1998. And I was hired to launch Legoland, California. So my job there was organization development and training. So I did a lot of the hiring and onboarding and development of the employees for over a decade. I was with them for 11 years. And so, as I said, I've always had the serious jobs within the fun places. And so I think I've just always enjoyed this environment. But I'm all about getting work done as well. And I believe that there can be a balance of play, and I'll explain what I mean by that, and actual real work, for lack of a better term. And that's one of the things I think when I transitioned my career to, I say, the dark side and became an academic, I said, how can I help people in organizations? I'm an organizational psychologist now. And so how can I help people in organizations to really see that real work can get done without being so stiff and serious all the time? And so that really was the impetus that led me to kind of say, what can we do to challenge organizations to think about this, especially because, as you probably know, this is the first time in history where there's been 5 generations in the workplace. And so you've got a really diverse group of individuals, not only in age, but diversity of thought and things like this, that it matters how we do things, and we have to think differently about how we're doing work.
There is a lot to unpack there. And I think I'll start with the last one first. I think it is an interesting time also just in humanity. We've gotten to this point with technology where we've kind of over optimized it. It's sucked out all the free minutes in our day and our leisure time and a lot of other things that maybe aren't necessarily healthy or we weren't thinking about as conscious choices. And I think it's time to revisit some of that, but also with the generations and the latest research into play and health is like, we know that kids need to move more. They're not, getting out and playing, and recess is being taken out of schools in the name of productivity. And we can talk more about that because it's not true. But also with older generations that are living longer, they need to be healthier longer. If you want life in those years at the end, when you're living longer, you need to move, you need to stave off Alzheimer's with creativity and using your brain and stuff. So I think there's a bunch there, but I also love what you said about having a serious job in a playful company. And sometimes I've had playful jobs in serious companies as well. And I find that really interesting, that some people think it's one or the other, that the play is the opposite of work, and you're either serious and we're taking this serious because we work in a hospital, or you're playing around, you're goofing around at a radio station or a concert and you're not doing something that matters. So can you talk, I'll let you pick which one goes first. Why play matters and is serious, or why play is productive?
Yeah. So first off, I'll say the opposite of play is not work. It's actually literal mindedness and or one dimensionality. And so that's really where we're going about, where my challenge is to reframe play in the adult vocabulary, because as you said, we need play in order to help us continue thinking and thinking differently and creatively and innovatively. We know that one of the top traits that organizations are looking for in their senior leaders is innovative thinking. And so if we are not playing playing with ideas, playing with thoughts, playing with the challenges before us, how are we then stretching our mind to think differently? Or else we'll continue.
I'll add two things on to that real quick. One is, I think people think work is the opposite is play, but the opposite of both of those is sloth. It's sitting around not doing anything in front of Netflix. And the other thing I think people miss a lot is that most people, when they run into a challenge, do one of two things: more of what they were currently doing or less of what they were currently doing. That's right. And only something like 3% of the population as adults do anything creative or look for problem solving around an obstacle rather than through it or giving up and trying something else. And I think that's the part that I'm really interested to hear how you use Lego and other things to focus on creativity.
Yeah, for sure. So that is where my medium for encouraging this new way of thinking, this creating a divergent mindset, allowing yourself to explore, is through Lego, and specifically through Lego Serious Play. So as I've mentioned, I worked for the Lego company for over a decade, and so had a beautiful introduction into what the organization is all about. And a lot of, as most people know, their research and their toy product is typically thought of to be for children. But I'll tell you a secret: the number one toy product at Lego traditionally sells to men over 30. So you are.
I resemble that remark. So does my background. Thank you.
Yeah. But in 2002, the gentleman who was the director of the education programs for the Lego company out of Denmark, that's where the headquarters is located. He was challenged by the Lego group to build an internal tool for them using their own product to help them think through strategy. And it was such a success. So he collaborated with a couple of really smart people from a business school in Lucerne, Switzerland, called IMD. And together they created this methodology using traditional Lego bricks that really helps. And again, it was meant to be an internal tool originally to help the Lego group itself think through some changes that they were going through. What proved to be so successful that they started training others outside the organization to use the method with the purpose of going out into organizations to use this, on a wider range. And it's more popular in Europe because Lego just tends to be people's first word when they're when they're born over in Europe. And in the US, we're having a harder time getting it out there, but it's starting to take off. I don't know if you recently saw the Wall Street Journal article that mentioned how people are bringing Lego back into the workplace. And we got a little nod in that, which was cool as well.
Yeah, I think all of that is awesome. And there's something that came to mind for me when I started looking into it for myself. And I think that's what you said about the difference between convergent and divergent thinking. And the Lego products that happen to do well are really around the world, but also specifically in the United States, is our schooling trains us to follow instructions. So when you get a Lego kit and you're building, the Voltron behind me or whatever, and they give you all the pieces, you're really just putting together a puzzle. You're looking for the one right answer of putting these few hundred or thousand pieces together. But the opposite of that is really more interesting to me. And I'm wondering what you think of how we encourage more adults and kids to play with the creator sets, that you're getting a bunch of Legos with no or little instructions and you build something out of it. I've done a couple of books and exercises with different Lego challenges that you can buy. And they say, build the wobbliest structure or the tallest structure with whatever Legos you have laying around the house. Those challenges, there is no one right answer. There's unlimited numbers of answers and ways you can put Legos together. So how do you think about that? Do you think there is still benefits to the kit building of puzzle solving and mindfulness and stuff, or do you really think we need to focus on the divergent creative builds?
Yeah, and let me answer that by sharing what Lego Serious Play is all about, because I think it will address that. In that, in the world of Lego, whatever you make, it's right. And in Lego Serious Play, it's not about the brick necessarily. It's about the meaning you attribute to it. And so I think as adults, that's the reframing that needs to happen, is that we're using the brick to tell a story about something and make meaning out of something that's important to us. And so when we're building with Lego Serious Play for purposes of developing this perspective taking, this divergent mindset, this way of innovating, we're giving a prompt that doesn't have a flat solution or one solution. In the academic world, we call that equifinality, which means multiple plausible solutions to the challenge. And so that's what we're saying is, you can't go in knowing the right answer. You have to believe that the answer's in the room, and that when people start to build something external of themselves, deeper learning happens. We know that back from the psychologists of Piaget and then Papert out of MIT, Seymour Papert, who, is famous for the kindergarten lab that he created at the MIT school, right? All about play. We know that when we build something external of ourselves, this deeper learning can occur. And so that's what we're trying to get at, is putting two bricks together using Lego, and you call it something and you create meaning out of it. That is the challenge. And then it starts to, your skill level starts to grow. We're not in Lego Serious Play. We're not looking for the best model. We're looking for the deepest meaning. I
love those Serious Play kits don't even have a build in them. They have exercises like this of build something that represents you or the team, not there's no right way or instruction like on the box of how to put it together, which I love.
I'll say this, Mike, you said that about the instructions, having worked for the Lego company and knowing some about their history. When Lego first started to put their kits into systems of play, is what they called them, there really was a debate in the organization about whether or not to even include instructions, right? Because they want people to think differently and not be told what to build, right? And so after a long debate, they decided to put instructions, as you know. But if you're familiar with a Lego kit, any of them, they're not traditional linear instructions that are written out. They're usually pictures, and there's very few of them, right? I mean, you might have 7 instructions for a small kit. You might have up to 50, 55 instructions, but they're not detailed step-by-step instructions. It's a little bit different. And so that was kind of the compromise that they came to.
Well, I think even just thinking about it like a puzzle is a great way to play. If you just have a basic 10,000 piece jigsaw puzzle, you're going to spend a lot of time thinking and working with your hands and thinking to yourself and pondering and solving problems and looking for things that's challenging your brain. So I think there is something to that in the classic builds. But I want to bring up one point. I don't know if you know this one or not. So this is going to be a pop Lego quiz here for you. If you have 6 of the basic 8-studded Lego bricks, do you know how many possible combinations there are of shapes you can do with just 6 bricks?
And I should know the actual number, but isn't it something like 900,000 something?
Yeah, it's 109 million possible combinations. A lot of people forget that the bottom ones also have plugs. So there's 8 on the top, but there's 8 on the bottom as well. But then also the number of possible, so and that's just 6 bricks. There are 109 million plus possible combinations. Is there one right answer for the way to put 6 bricks together? No, of course not. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish. And when we think about this with our teams, what about humans? Humans have way more than 6 possible ways to interact with each other or connect. Is there any possible way, if you have a team of 6 salespeople or engineers working on a project, that there's a right way to put them together or to accomplish the task? Like, there's no possible way. It becomes infinite. And I think there are really great lessons like that with Lego, that you start realizing, oh, well, these are even finite things. Computers, if you bump that up to like 12 bricks, if you just double 12 bricks, it would take a computer years to even calculate how many there are. So it basically becomes infinite at that point. And that to me is just shocking. And it's a really cool revelation of like, oh, well, I'm just improvising and I'm making this up as I go along. That meaning is mine. And looking for a right answer is pointless at that point.
Yeah, no, we do this exercise where we'll hand out 6 bricks, and they're yellow and red. And we ask each participant to make a duck. And it's so fun around the room to see that not one duck looks the same. And so we can all agree that they're ducks, but everybody has a different perspective on what a duck is. And that's another fabulous lesson, I think, in play is that, and in business, is that we have to be able to see everyone's perspective. We often think in the organization that we're talking about the same topic, but if we really step back and see, we might be defining it differently. Edward de Bono is an author that I've enjoyed reading, and he talks about this idea of parallel thinking. And he says what happens in the workplace is that we all start talking about a challenge that we need to solve, and we don't realize that we're looking at it from different perspectives. So he uses a house as the example. He said, you may be standing at the back of the house. I'm standing at the front door. Someone else is standing to the west and another person to the east. We all start talking about the house, and I'm talking about the beautiful red front door. And you in the back are thinking, yeah, I don't see a red door. I see a pool and a slider. Someone to the east is saying, well, I don't see either of those things. I see a small window and I hear a shower running, right? And then the person on the west says, I see trash cans, right? And so what de Bono says is we need to get everybody around to the same side of the house before we start the conversation. And it's such a simple concept, but we don't do it. And so this is where Lego can help us as well as we're trying to solve these complex challenges, is it takes that piece and gets everybody around to the same side of the house so that you can start the conversation in a place that's going to help solve the challenge in front of you.
I love that. I think all that creativity to me makes a ton of sense, and just practicing those can open it up to other options. But you also put the word confidence with it. So creative confidence is something that I think is interesting, and I talk a lot about. I'm working on a book right now, and creativity and confidence I put in separate buckets because I think, brainstorming, people say there's no bad ideas or whatever, and I think there are ways to be creative with imposter syndrome or with overconfidence that's tough. But I think the mistake I see people make is they think you learn how to be confident by winning, and the opposite is actually true. You learn to be confident through failure and overcoming that failure. And so sometimes creative or specifically play activities give you the place to fail and to learn and try. And then over time, you develop the confidence, where if you only wait until you're right, then you get that imposter syndrome of, okay, well, this can't be too easy, or you paralyze and waiting on perfection and all green lights before you start your journey. And none of those are very helpful. How do you think about creative confidence?
Yeah. Oh gosh, there's so much in that, Mike, you're so right about failure. And the beautiful thing about Lego is you can take things apart and put it right back together again before it's glued in place or inked on that strategic plan. And that's the beauty of using Lego in organizations, is that with the way society is moving and all the changes and the unpredicted pivots that need to happen, we can use this to create simple guiding principles instead of have these inked strategic plans that are outdated the next day, right? So that's just a side note. But to define creative confidence, so my research has been using Lego Serious Play and using that with adults to develop creative confidence, or to explore if creative confidence develops within them. And so creative confidence is defined as really the ability to take a different perspective, to use your divergent and your convergent thought together to create solutions. It's the courage to test something out, to experiment. So it really is different than creativity. When we think of creativity, we often think of fine art, skill, things like that. There's a lot of research out there whether an individual can be born with creativity or whether it can be learned. I'm not here to debate that, but what I am here to say is that all people can develop a creatively confident mindset. That's a muscle. It's a psychological mindset that can be worked on. And so we can challenge ourselves through Lego Serious Play to think differently, to take perspective, to build our courage, to build our self-efficacy, our confidence in what we're doing.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said about creativity. And just my thought is, there's been research that says like in third grade, 80% of students have genius levels of creativity. And by the time you graduate college, less than 3% of people do. And mostly that's trained out of us. And we grew up and we start taking things seriously or nurturing that creativity. And I think that's what this type of play can do with your team. The other side of that is I found that there's so many different misconceptions. I've always been very logical, like a scientific mindset. And I didn't realize that was creative until I was in my 20s, that I thought I just came up with interesting combinations. I'm like, well, I didn't create anything. I just took three things that already existed and mixed them together. And I found a way to fit that would solve our problem. And then I had a really good teacher that was like, that's creativity, you idiot. And I was like, oh, I just needed to think about it differently. And that made a lot more sense. But before we wrap up here, I wanted to ask you what maybe some creative ideas you have or ways that you've seen companies use Lego with adults, because I've seen everything from reward programs where when you're hired, you get a little minifigure that represents yourself and you can design it. And then you get badges or awards or accessories every time you hit a new accomplishment in your goal, to the stuff we've been talking about, exercises and play, to just leaving them in the middle of a conference table and teams, giving people, something to fidget with and stuff. Have you seen any really interesting or playful ways to use Lego that we haven't mentioned yet?
Yeah, so I do need to say that the full Lego Serious Play method, if an organization does that, you can have a workshop anywhere between 4 hours to 2 days, depending on how complex the challenge is that you're trying to solve. And that really is a beautiful way to use Lego to work through something that you're not sure of what the answer should be, and that you need to have 100% participation around the room. Because as we know, oftentimes 80% of the work gets done by 20% of the people. And so what Lego does is it invites all of the voices, and then you build something collaboratively together that serves as your movement point, your aspiration of where you want to go. So that the Lego Serious Play method is one. Another thing we're doing with Lego is bringing into organizations is thinking in 3D. So it's not the full Lego Serious Play problem solving method, but it's saying, how can we get our hands on bricks when we're just trying to talk something out or describe something in more detail? And so thinking in 3D with Lego, and anybody can do that. Just get a bucket of bricks that you have sitting around your house. Like you said, throw it on the boardroom table and allow people to build out what they're thinking about something. And that can really spark some really interesting conversation. I use it in my classroom when I teach. I have students say, build one thing you learned from class tonight. And it's really interesting to kind of see what happens in that. And it sparks more dialogue, right?
I love that. And it sparks some ideas in me. I'm thinking of just ways you could build an organizational chart with minifigures or with pieces. And a lot of people haven't really thought that creative about it, but you can write information in dry erase or in other even permanent markers on different Lego blocks, and then arrange those in different patterns, kind of like the old magnet. I've been sick this week. The old magnet word thing where you can arrange them in different sentences. And so you could use Lego blocks to represent chapters in a book or a strategic plan or other things. And we use them in the sales training company I work with. We call it the Lego block approach. Is when we're designing a program, we have about 30 different skills for sales, like listening or questioning or closing or presenting. And every company doesn't want to work on all of those, and you can't start all at once. So it's how do we arrange these different blocks in the way that makes the most sense for the learner or for the organization to accomplish their goals, and interesting ways to arrange that. I've never thought about it. It is different in 3D than just a digital space, and in, you know, an Evernote or a shared Google Doc is nice for collaboration, but you don't really get to see it and feel it and move stuff around in the same way.
Yeah, you're right, Mike. And we need to get past the fact that play is not work, is not serious. And so one of the things I like to champion is, you know, reframing this definition of play and talking about why play is so serious. And so I would just kind of close by saying that remember that the definition of play is something that's meaningful, something that's intentional, something that has a process to it, and something where learning takes place. And so if we're thinking and redefining play in our minds with that rich of a definition, think about all we can accomplish when we're playing with ideas and challenges.
I love it. Once again, we're talking with Wendy Dyke McGee. You can connect with her on LinkedIn. Just search Wendy with an I there, and you will find her. I'll also put the link in the comments or show notes, wherever you are listening or watching to this. And she's a Lego Serious Play facilitator. So reach out to her and do a workshop with your organization. Now, Wendy, are you ready to play a game?
Oh, sure. Let's go for it.
All right, we have a wheel with 10 games that it could land on, and you got Two Truths and a Lie. Two Truths and a Lie is the game where you make up two fun facts about yourself, and one that is fiction. We'll try and guess. Do you want to go first or second?
I will go first.
All right, let's hear them.
Okay. As of today, my sister and I are the same age, but we're not twins, and we have the same biological parents. I survived the Titanic, and I mentioned I worked at Disneyland back while I was in college, and I played Belle.
Ah, okay. I'm gonna go with the last one as the lie. I think the Belle.
What you are correct.
Ah, nice. I got it correct. 1 point for me there. It seems like I love that you share this personality, but you've kind of said that, like, you know, being the performer is not your thing. And I like that. Okay. So that's why I got you. All right. I got some Lego ones for you. Okay. So this is going to be tough here.
Okay.
But I have over 250 minifigures. My record is over 10,000 pieces in 1 week, or putting together and assembling, or I have a complete Lego space childhood set from the 80s.
Oh gosh. Okay. I'm going to guess number 2 is your lie, because you may have done more than that.
I don't know. I haven't actually counted, but no, I was counting that with our my Playful Humans background here on the world map.
Okay.
That's somewhere around 11,000 pieces. You have about 1,000 left over when you're done with it, because they want to give you some options. But I finished that one in a week. That was super fun. Okay. The Lego space, I had the kit, and I think they're at my parents' house. It's all broken out. I really want to find them all and do it, but I would love an 80s Lego space kit.
That's amazing. I mean, the coolest thing about Lego is you can put together Lego that was made yesterday with your kit from the 80s, from the 1960s, when it first started coming to the US. So
that is so awesome. So I appreciate you playing. We kind of already let you have final thoughts, but any asks or gives for the audience here before we end? Any way we can help you or you can help us?
Oh gosh, that's a nice question. I think help us to champion play in a positive way out there in schools and organizations with leaders. Why, once we turn 18, do we have to stop playing? Let's keep playing with ideas and thoughts and building creative confidence in each and every one of us.
I love that. Once again, reach out to Wendy McGee on LinkedIn, and that link is in the show notes. For more information on Playful Humans, you can find us at playfulhumans.com. We have some different play shops as well with trivia game shows. There's a personality quiz and all kinds of fun stuff, really just encouraging adults to get outside and play and whatever that means to you. We both love Lego, but there are plenty of other ways to play with sports and puzzles and artistic creations and music. So go out there and do what you love to do. And if you can't be good at it. That's what I always say.
Don't wait for tomorrow. Live for today. Keep on chasing the sunshine and go out and play.
Hey, you did it. You made it to the end. But don't worry, there are plenty of more videos where that came from. Just click subscribe to Playful Humans to get notified about our future videos. Now, what are you still doing here? Go play.